A rematch that really doesn't need to be made. Very well may be made in the not too distant future, which would be the rematch between Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua. It's a rematch that Eddie Hearn has always talked about. He's always kept it there on the chessboard. He'd love to make that move because in the back of his mind he knows that Dillian Whyte is no match for Anthony Joshua. He got, you could arguably say, a bit lucky in that first fight, or rather Joshua gave him that opportunity to land a good counter because he was fighting on emotion and he was pretty raw back then. And now under Robert McCracken, he hasn't worked a miracle job because Joshua's naturally overly muscular. He's never going to be dancing around or showing you any particularly impressive defensive maneuvers or working behind a nice varied jab, but he has neatened him up. He has tightened the defense. He's better with his counters. He's more measured and distributes that firepower over the 12 rounds where he can do now. Whereas under Mark Tibbs, has Dillian Whyte really improved that much? I cite it as a bit of, to use a blunt word, propaganda from the Sky team saying he's really improved. I don't think he really has. You've still got the same pretty sloppy, often overweight, even uncoordinated heavyweight, which is an odd thing to say for somebody who's at the world level. But Dillian Whyte will often uncork a great shot out of nowhere, like the one he floored Joseph Parker with. But in that fight, he won purely on guts and a bit of commitment against a guy who he should have lost to, but the other guy is somebody who has the talent, has the natural abilities, but doesn't really seem to have as much commitment or desire or drive, or just won't get the right people around him. And that's what you saw there. But after Whyte, Whyte might have a rematch with Chisora. That would be risky, but saying he won that rematch, and Joshua probably is on his way to defeating Povetkin, there's going to be that opportunity there, that tantalising little window for Eddie Hearn to make this rematch, and he'd easily be able to sell it to people. You just have to spam that moment where he shook Joshua. And because the fact only apart from Klitschko has given Joshua a tough fight, you'd be like, oh, and the only other guy to give Joshua something to chew on. And it's easily sold to a more casual, a growing casual audience that has happened under Eddie Hearn, for all the good Eddie Hearn has done for British boxing, and he's done a lot. He has, I think, fattened the casuals. There's a lot of trendies in the audience, people who easily are fed bollocks, basically. And with the prevalence of so many boxing channels like IFL and so many others, in Britain at least, fighters these days are sold not just on their merits as fighters, but as personalities that casual audience can watch and go, oh yeah, I know that guy, I like that guy. And just through familiarity's sake, they're willing to give these people more of a chance, as odd as that sounds. But, this is the world we live in. And anything Dillian Whyte says about wanting to fight Joshua is always promoted by Sky Sports and done on meaningless little articles because he's part of the Sky Sports team. So this fight is easily made. But as I've said, you've got one guy who hasn't really improved and you could arguably say, lucky against Joshua in the first fight, and a guy who has improved, Joshua, who apart from him and Deontay Wilder, I think there's a big gulf between those two guys who need to fight and everyone else. Tyson Fury looks out of shape. Luis Ortiz may be the most naturally talented, but very old. Joseph Parker won't get a new team. And Dillian Whyte, just inherently sloppy, whatever slight improvements have been made. So I think really the only meaningful fight to be made in the heavyweights at the moment is Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. I don't want to see a rematch between Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua. In the first fight, of course, Joshua almost got rid of Whyte in that first round. It's easy to forget that when you saw it developed into a bit of a gutsy one. But Dillian Whyte was almost overwhelmed in the first round, and then where was his head at? It looked like he wanted to foul himself out of the fight after the first bell clanged. So I think it would be black and white in the rematch. You'd wipe him out. What do you think, though? Am I being overly harsh? Is it another classic case of myself saying like something's not pay-per-view worthy when a lot of people think they are? Do you think Dillian Whyte, if they were to fight in the next, say, 6 months or so, does he give Anthony Joshua anything else to think of? Can he improve on that great left hook he landed? Or is he gobbled up much easier from a more measured Anthony Joshua? What do you reckon?